For Ukraine, this remains to be an existential war. And the choice is actually very simple, and it has never been just about choosing between Russia and the West. The choice remains about the way of life. And we see the two ways of life that Ukraine is choosing between on two sides of the front line. On one side, in Russian occupation, where you have atrocities on a daily basis committed against civilians, where you have extrajudicial killings, torture, deportation. And then on the other side, you have Ukraine that is free, unoccupied, and as imperfect as is, striving to be a better state every day. So what stands in between those two ways of life is essentially Ukrainian armed forces, supported by the population of Ukraine and its partners like the United States. So for Ukraine, the choice remains clear. I think there's a lot more at stake in this war than existence of Ukraine, as we discussed, including vital U.S. national security interests, but also the future of NATO. Because, as you know well, the Article 5 or NATO border are not magic shields. And NATO's decision-making depends very much on perceptions and assessments of individual member states, on credibility of other member states in the alliance.
You're here. And Ambassador.
Again, I agree much with what Nataliya said. The Ukrainian people have no choice.
Yeah.
Putin has made clear, and our intelligence agencies brilliantly picked this up before the big invasion, their intention to impose their vision of what Ukrainians should be, which is, to use a historic and not much appreciated phrase in Ukraine, little Russians, not to have their own identity as a separate people. We see this in the brutal war crimes that are being conducted in occupied Ukraine against Ukrainians who want to speak the Ukrainian language, who don't want to worship in the Russian Orthodox Church. So Ukraine has no choice. And the people understand that. And even though they are suffering greatly, they don't have an alternative but to fight on, because as the former leader in Herbst said to me 18 months ago, living under Russian bombs is bad, but living under Russian occupation is far worse. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they're in this to the end, and they will win if we provide the necessary support, which again, as all three of us have made clear, is critical to American interests. It's a smart way to deal with a rogue nuclear superpower. Beat him in Ukraine.
Here. And Mr. Secretary.
So I completely agree with the two other witnesses. I would just add, as an attacker, Russia has two choices because Ukraine is fighting for its survival. They can either capitulate or annihilate, and they're on track to try to annihilate, and therefore it's extremely important that we do everything possible now to prevent that from happening.